Story time. Wednesday afternoon. I was walking down Allen Avenue heading towards a meeting that I had prepared for all week. Had this meeting, this presentation that I was meant to do. I was dressed sharply, confident, nicely dressed, and in a hurry. My mind occupied with details of my presentation as I walked through the crowd in Allen Avenue that Wednesday afternoon. As I walked through the crowd, a man brushed past me, shoved me slightly to the side. I stopped and turned. A spark of irritation ignited in my chest like Elon Shelley. Watch where you're going, I snapped. I will be telling you now. I snapped, my voice carrying more anger than the situation warranted. This man I'm referring to is a tall man, muscular figure, veins all over his hands, stern face, the proper, he has this figure that is good enough to intimidate a short, young, tiny girl that I was as at that time. The man paused and looked back at me. His eyes narrowed, and for a moment there was silence between us. Because when he looked back, I freaked out for a minute, and then I realigned and said, "Kini, I'm sick. I could feel tension building, but my pride wouldn't let me back down. I stared back, unwilling to be intimidated. That was what was going on in my head. "What did you just say? Wait till you talk," he asked, his voice dangerously sending the message to me. The guy came back. "Wait till you talk." When you go where they say, that was what was in my head. I said, "Watch where you are going." When they look where you they go. I repeated, my voice firm this time. I stand well, I say, if they leave us, I go kill them. The crowd around us had gathered this time. People have started gathering up, like, what did they happen? What did they happen? As crowd don't gather now, I don't feel let's for my hand. So I stood my ground. I said, "Hey, watch where you're going," I said. The man stepped closer to me. And I could see the veins in his neck pulsing with anger. I could see that this guy was furious as at that time. The guy was like, "You no know you dey follow talk. Who you say you dey follow talk?" As at this time, if I wasn't stupid, I could hear the voice filled with menace. I could see the anger had built up. Something in his tone should have made me step back, apologize, and walk away. But I was too caught up in my own pride, too determined not to be seen as weak. "I don't care who you are," I retorted, my voice rising this time. I said, "I don't care who you be. What's it my own? You push me, I push you." I went like the olden typewriter. I said, "You're not going to push me around. Who you think say you be? You anything where you be on for your house. No, come here, come they misbehave." I was schooling this man. Before I could react and then turn around to say and go, his hand came up in a blow. It was like magic. The thing I felt was a sharp, explosive pain on the side of my face. The slap was so powerful that it sent me stumbling backward, forward, up, down, my vision going momentarily dark as I struggled to stay on my feet. He went, the slap rang a bell. Doom, and then I started seeing starting. I wonder what you are in my head. As I regained my balance, a new shot, a new pain shot through my jaws. A searing, grinding sensation that made me gasp. I reached to touch my face and felt my jaw hanging. Awkwardly, it was hanging awkwardly to one side. I wanted to talk, but panic gripped me as I realized what had just happened to me. My jaw was dislocated. People around us grabbed like some stepped forward to help me. As at this time, I could not even say help because this lower part is gone this way and this is gone this way. So it's what it is finger on me. People stepped forward to help. But this man was not bothered. This man simply turned east and walked away. His anger was, his anger spent. He left me standing there in shock and pain. The world seems to spin around as I try to process what has just happened to me because my brain was still yet to process it. Within minutes, a good Samaritan had stopped a taxi for me, and I was rushed to the nearest hospital. The journey to the hospital was another story entirely. The drive felt endless. Every bump in the road sending fresh wave of agony through my face. My thoughts were a blur of pain, fear, and regret. How I had let my pride lead me to this. I kept chastising myself. I kept condemning myself. I kept feeling so terrible for letting my pride lead me to this point. I could have just said sorry. I could have even just walked away without saying a word. Do I have to say anything? Did I even have to stop? He shoved me aside. I could have just walked away. At the hospital, the doctor, when we got to the hospital, the doctor quickly diagnosed that it was a dislocation. Oh my God. The process of setting my jaw back in place. It was a slap that sent it to that side. We needed another slap to reset it. We'll give it another in place. The pain was excruciating. But the pain that I felt, the physical pain I felt at that time was nothing compared to the shame and regret that settled in me as I laid in the hospital bed afterwards. The doctor explained that I would need to keep my jaw immobilized for a few weeks. You know what that means? Even eating, I had to eat with sense, not to talk of running my mouth, blah, 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 blah. And I might have to endure lingering pain for some time. The pain will keep lingering. Oh my God. As I sat in that sterile room, in the hospital room, the events of the day replayed in my mind over and over. Had let my pride and temper get the better of me. And it has cost me more expensively, more dearly than I should pay. I missed my meeting, the meeting I had been so focused on that made me so agitated at that point. I missed it. And my face that was once my source of confidence, was now a reminder of my foolishness. Every time I look at myself like this, I remember I felt how foolish I was. Money that I was not meant to spend, I was spending in the hospital because of my foolishness. Something that a simple sorry or even walking away could have saved. But the experience taught me a hard lesson. It taught me about the consequences of allowing your pride to dictate your action. That's the most foolish thing that could ever happen to a man, letting your pride dictate how you react. It wasn't just the physical pain that I had to endure. It was the realization that in that moment, I had lost control of myself. I had allowed anger to guide me instead of reason. And it had led to a disaster. As the week passed and my jaw slowly healed, I found myself becoming more reflective. You know, when you're down, you're more reasonable. You know, I've become more reflective and then more cautious about how I respond to conflict. I learned to let go of need to always be right, to always have the last word. You know, it was a painful lesson, both physically and emotionally, but one that ultimately made me stronger and wiser. Looking back now, I can see that moment for what it was. It was a turning point. It was the day I learned that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in standing your ground, but in knowing when to walk away. Good day, and I'll see you later. Thank you for standing by. Bye.